Welcome, everybody. It is Decentralized TV and Tone Vays. Now, a lot of you guys have been talking about getting us together for a long time, and it's finally here. It's finally here. Tone, thank you so much. I'm excited to get to know you better. You've been on my radar for, we were just talking before this, and I was telling you, I've been subscribed to you for like 3 years. I'm following that technical analysis, guys. So, Tone, thanks so much for chatting with me. I'm really excited to be hanging out.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thanks for having me on, even though we are streaming on my YouTube as well. But your show, your interview, if you've been watching me for a while, this is your chance, man. Get creative. What do you want to know that you haven't yet heard?
Absolutely. So, guys, I know a lot of people. At least, well, there's multiple communities out there. There's technical analysis communities. There's news communities. There's ICO community. There's all sorts of communities. And so, if you haven't heard of Tone Vays, where the fuck have you been, guys? I mean, Tone is one of the leading technical analysts out there, if I may say, Tone, focusing on the most important coin of all time, Busy Bitcoin, guys. And so I want to give you an opportunity, Tone, to tell me, because I've done research and I've been following you for a long while, but who is Tone Vays? Who is this guy? Who is this guy behind the screen?
Well, I am enjoying looking at your Lambo right there behind you. So clearly technical analysis is not all that needed to do really well in the space there, because I don't know if you trade using technical analysis, but clearly you do, right?
I do. And if I could brush my shoulder off for a second, I learned a lot from you. So I'm shilling you. So if anybody out there that's on the stream, if you haven't checked out Tone Vays' YouTube channel, make sure you do. Make sure you do. It can get pretty technical, if I may. It can get pretty technical. And there's sometimes when if you just jump in on a stream on Tone Vays, there might be a lot of context missing, because Tone often continues to kind of have a narrative throughout his streams. But make sure that you check out Tone Vays. You can find him at Tone Vays. There's other. Did you know that there's fake Twitter accounts for you?
Oh my God. It's not, you know what? The fake Twitter accounts are not a problem, because you can easily tell how many followers the fake accounts have. And it's like, a few hundred maybe. And I have over, 160,000 followers. The problem is fake telegrams. That's the problem. Because even if you type in my Telegram username perfectly, Tone Vays, no spaces at Tone Vays, I still come up number 3. Behind
you're the fake Tone Vays.
Yeah, behind 2 scammers, and God forbid you put Tone space Vays, then you only get scammers. Like, you don't even have a choice to like accidentally get to me. So that's been the bigger problem. And also, like, I thought I was all slick getting Tone at protonmail.ch because I was so early to Proton Mail, when in reality I should have got Tone Vays at protonmail.ch, because a scammer ended up getting that one. Like 6 months ago, I was able to get Proton Mail to ban the account, but they're not giving me the handle. So,
oh man, well, see, that is kind of the cost of being famous in the crypto world. So, give us a little bit of your background, Tone. I know not a lot of people kind of know the ins and outs of how long you've been here in the market. I would say, if I may say, I mean, I think you're very much part of the kind of the ground level, kind of the undergirding architecture of a cryptocurrency, certainly being around as long as you have. So tell us about your history. Where were you? What got you into crypto, and what are you doing now?
Sure. By the way, what's helping me be on one of those, I never consider myself an OG, but now I kind of do.
You are an OG.
Do you know why I consider myself now an OG? It's kind of like if you join a company, like one of the companies I joined, right? I was employee number 35. That company grew to employee number 70, but people above you start to leave. And then you make it all the way up to employee number 8 by seniority. So that's kind of what happened in crypto space. Like when I came in, I looked up to so many people, and one by one, they have all disappointed by going off to hard forks and just going crazy off the wagon. So like, I'm only down to like maybe 3 people that I was following when I joined the space that I still kind of follow. So what brought me to the space? Well, I mean, I don't know how far I want to go back, I started out as a high school teacher, and that was not going to be A, fun, or B, profitable. So I got
get the fuck out of here. You were a high school teacher? Get the fuck out of here.
yeah, it was horrible, man. It was I was 21 or 22 at the time. It was insane. And then I went to grad school, moved down to Florida, got a master's in financial engineering, but I had no work experience in finance. And came back to New York, was a college adjunct professor for a little while just to learn better coding skills to get a finance job. It's really interesting. Like, coding will get you a job way faster than knowing finance will in finance. Because any like the way they look at it, you can't teach someone math and programming, but you can certainly teach them how to do finance. That seems to be like an easier learning curve. So once I picked up some SQL skills, being able to query a database, once I got my .NET skills a little bit better, and VBA helps a lot, at least back then. Today, it's all Python. Today, you need to know Python to get a finance job, a quantitative finance job. Let's put it that way.
And coding, guys.
Yeah, so I got a job at Bear Stearns about a year and a half before they collapsed. And then I moved on to JP Morgan after the collapse. And then there were two other financial companies that I worked at. Now, my job never actually required any trading. My job was building risk models to analyze the positions of hedge funds for their risk analysis. So I had a lot of insider information. Like some of the big hedge funds would send us data and we would process their positions, but it was on a month-end basis, right? So it's not like I know when a big hedge fund is entering the trade. I just know what a giant hedge fund holds as of the last day of the month. And we have a bunch of NDAs. You know, if I get caught trading on that information, I can go to jail besides being fired. So that was the actual job. But right before I joined that job, one of my friends talked me into taking a technical analysis class on learning how to trade, similar to the classes that I teach now. So like my workshop is a 1 day of a 3-day workshop that I attended back in 2002. I have condensed it into 1 day of the most important stuff. They did it over like 2.5 days, or like 2 full days plus a half day, but they were catering to a much bigger audience. And back then you didn't have like any resources. It was like the early days of the internet. So you didn't have all these other resources for people to go and learn on their own. They were also charging $8,000 to attend. And that was in $2003, which today is going to be like what, 12 grand or something like that, like 11, 12 grand. And I'm only charging 0.1 Bitcoin and people are still complaining, right? Like how much I paid for that same stuff. So me and my friend did that. And, but we didn't have any money because we were like broke college, out of college students. So we started trading with like tiny portfolios, and it was much harder back then. Like right now, you can start, trading with like $1,000 in crypto.
Oh yeah.
And you're catching this, the .com bubble, late 1990s mania. We were doing it in like 2003 at the bottom end of the market.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't have that. You actually needed to be really, really good. And you're doing it with a tiny amount of money, like a few $1,000 in a trading account. I mean, even Amazon is trading at $50 back then before the split, right? So that's like $5 today. And that's like expensive for us, right? So we got to like, shit, what do we do? Do we buy like 5 shares of Amazon?
The answer is yes. In hindsight,
the answer was yes, right? But we were like literally trading like $10 to $15 stocks. And that's what we learned how to trade. That's why we started trading options in order to maximize the leverage. And we came up with some amazing option strategies back then that actually did really, really well during the .com, during the 08 crisis. However, when I finally got that Bear Stearns job in 2007, and while we were trading and doing very well, it was still small money. And all of a sudden I get this job and my starting salary is like $75K or something. And that's amazing. I was a teacher before that, making like half that, if even. I had to
like
really
35 grand. You're like right above the poverty level.
Yeah, I had to concentrate on work. So like I couldn't devote too much attention to trading. So we kind of split up. And then all throughout my work life in Wall Street for 9 years, it was always like, okay, well, I'm making good money. I have a good standard of living, but my passion is trading. So, oh my God, I loved it when finally in like 2010, like the phone, like once the smartphones came out, like 2010, 2011, when Android was stable, and a lot of these brokers started getting apps on their phones for trading. Now I'm like sitting in conference rooms, like trading, right? Being like a terrible employee.
Getting paid by the man while trading, guys.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
And eventually I got, I really wanted to quit my job and be a trader. So that's what led me to quitting. And the Bitcoin came into my life on the side. In 2012, I started listening to a lot of Ron Paul stuff, 2011, 2012, going into the election. I don't know, where do you live?
I live in Atlanta.
Oh, you're in Atlanta. Okay. So I don't know how young you are. You were a voting age in 2012, right?
Yes. I'm closer to 40 than 30. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you look. So you and I are probably the same age, but you look significantly younger. Probably a lot.
It's Asian don't raisin guy. Come on, Tone.
Yeah, that and looks like you have a lot less stress. Probably a lot less trolls too.
I bet you have a ton of trolls. I
have a lot. I have an unreasonable amount. I actually finally started blocking people on Twitter. I just can't take it anymore. I held out until this year, but this year I started finally blocking.
It's too much. So you're telling us you started out as a teacher. Got into trading. Now, this is an interesting thing. You were a self-learned trader, but interestingly enough, you ended up getting some pretty significant jobs with corporate entities. Was it JP Morgan or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you were self-learned trader. You were really successful at that, got a job for the man. And then Bitcoin came in and you said, it's time to go full bore crypto.
No,
talk about that conversion of sorts.
Yeah, it was a long transition, right? So in 2011, 2012, when I was paying attention to the Ron Paul campaign for that election, I did not want to see Obama get reelected. So I was really rooting for Ron Paul. When Ron Paul didn't make it, I ended up voting for Gary Johnson. So that's like a waste of a vote. But
pretty much.
But I wasn't going to vote for McCain. I think McCain was running. I forgot who the candidate was against Obama. Doesn't really. Oh no, Romney. Sorry, it was Romney that year.
Romney, yeah.
So Romney wasn't really doing it for me. So.
Romney, guys, quote that. Romney doesn't do it for Tone.
Yeah, and but so what happened was, so in doing so and following the Ron Paul campaign, you end up watching a lot of the alternative media, and that's how I ended up watching a lot of RT and found Max Kaiser. So it was actually Max Kaiser that first brought Bitcoin to my attention around 2011, 2012 with the WikiLeaks incident and the funding of WikiLeaks. Through Bitcoin. Now, again, I was busy with my job. I was still trying to work up the ranks there. And I didn't pay attention to it. In 2012, it came on my radar again. I Googled it and everything that showed up was mining. And I didn't have time for that. So in 2013, in early 2013, things were now different. Now there was a lot of unstable events going on in Europe. And when those Cyprus events started happening, that bothered me a lot, and I continued to be watching, RT, Max Kaiser. There was a show called Capital Account that became Boom Bust.
That's right.
Which it is right now. And so that brought, and that made me seriously think about Bitcoin. Now, when I Googled Bitcoin, I found local Bitcoins and found a dealer here in New York and, bought my first Bitcoins. In I think around end of Q1 2013. But between me buying my first Bitcoins and 2014, February, when the Bitcoin Center opened downtown Manhattan, the big one next to the stock exchange.
Right. Yep.
During that time, I did not know a single Bitcoiner. Only my dealer that I saw 2 or 3 times in early 2013, early to mid 2013. I made 3 purchases of some Bitcoin. And that's it. I didn't know the community. I didn't go to any meetups. I didn't know a single person. No one even told me about Bitcoin. Like
I didn't know. Is that what you call them? Bitcoin dealers? Or are you talking about crack? Because
it feels almost the same, only you're meeting at like, in Williamsburg, Brooklyn at some, hippie coffee shop that has internet. But other than that, the transaction looks very similar because I'm handing an envelope of cash and getting something back.
guys, this is how you had to do it back in the day. You had to actually like meet people and trade for Bitcoin.
Yes. And so once the Bitcoin Center opened in 2014, it was like 3 blocks away from my job. So twice a week, I would go there when they were having their events, and I was helping them run the physical exchange market in person, still standing on the box, yelling out bid-ask spreads because we had like a floor trading kind of thing going on.
So you were full zoot suit, weren't you?
No, I still wore my normal clothes, man. I'm not a big suit guy, but I had a couple of custom-made suits made when I was in Thailand last time, so now I'm a little more enthusiastic about wearing them. When you wear a suit quite often, that's the last thing you want to wear. When you don't wear a suit for 3 years, it feels good to actually put one on.
It's interesting you say that, because the only time that I ever put on a suit is for daddy-daughter dance with my daughter, and it feels good to wear that suit. So I get it. I'm not a suit guy either. So let's transition a little bit. So you had all this stock exchange experience, mass financial experience, self-taught trader, getting into the system. What made you come into the jump of YouTube and social media and starting to blast your message out there? And by the way, guys, Tone kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to shill Tone here, is that he does these trading, these trading boot camps of sorts. I'm just going to use that word for now. But he travels around as a consultant to train you and to help you learn about how to get in the game. And so what moved you to using social? What moved you to using these YouTube as a platform for getting your message out there and obviously growing your business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like I said, I started out as a teacher, and even during my college days and even after college when I needed money, I was a tutor. So speaking in front of public and explaining things in very basic layman's terms is one of my very good skill sets. So in order to utilize it, and I enjoy it, I really took the opportunity to like weasel my way into speaking at a Bitcoin conference out in Hong Kong. Basically, I attended my very first Bitcoin conference in April of 2014 in New York. And I asked really good questions to some of the speakers. And then I emailed the conference organizer, hoping he would remember me, because they were having like a month later, they were having a conference in Hong Kong. And the last financial company I was working for had an office in Hong Kong that I had to work with every now and then. So my company was more than happy for me to pay my own way, go to Hong Kong and work out of the Hong Kong office for a week and meet the team in Hong Kong. So everybody benefited. I was able to go to Hong Kong, meet the guys I was actually working with on almost a daily basis, because we had a 24-hour operation going for risk analysis. And the Hong Kong team would hand off the work over to the London team, and the London team would hand off the work over to me in New York. I would hand off the work over to San Francisco. So it's like a 24-hour nonstop operation.
Sounds like something blockchain could solve at some level.
Well, maybe the time zones are still a bit of a problem, but so I don't get to interact with the Hong Kong team much. So anyway, so I was able to go out there, meet the team, only have to take 2 days off just for the 2 days of the conference, and spend the other 3 days that week just working. And I called the conference. I gave them my financial background. I said, hey, I've been in crypto for like a year. I started my own website just so I can have, my own business card. And it was Liberty Life Trail back then. I've now rebranded to Vays.com. And yeah, that was my first speaking engagement. Cointelegraph had just launched a month or two earlier. Their top people, there was only like maybe 6 people in Cointelegraph back then. They were there doing some video interviews and, writing their articles. They saw me speak, and they asked me to write for them. So so that conference was in May. I think as of June, I started writing on Cointelegraph, and I wanted to write about technical analysis. because again, that's kind of my expertise. Writing isn't, though I did write some other op-eds and other stories. I just didn't want to cover like news. And I started a Learn Trading series because it got to me that, hey, there are so many amateur traders trading crypto, and I have actual experience trading traditional assets, and a lot of it. I can be at the top of the that food chain of educating on trading and trading in general. So I jumped on that chance early in 2014 and started writing the technical analysis series of Cointelegraph. My biggest competition at the time was actually Van Zen, who I'm friends with now, lives out in Thailand, who was writing technical analysis for CCN. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I haven't heard his name in forever. Where did he go? Did he quit? Is he still around?
Yeah, so I went to Thailand. I met up with him. Like I specifically went to Krabi to meet up with Van Zen. It was funny.
I haven't heard that name in forever, man.
Yeah, he hit me up like a year ago or something, telling me that he really likes my work. And I replied to him, I'm like, dude, your work was like my biggest competition when I started. It was really, really good.
But now I'm crushing you.
Yeah, he just went private. Basically, he got enough of a popularity through CCN that he just decided to do like a paid $100 a month subscription for, and there's enough for him to just lay back and trade and interact with a small group of people that are paying him a subscription fee. And I did an interview with him. It's on my YouTube channel, On the Record, basically with Van Zen. And I'm not sure how we got on it. Yeah, so he was pretty much my only competition. The only other people in the space that knew what they were doing, I felt, were like Tour de Meester, who still does it a little bit. I mean, I recognized him, that he knows what he's doing. Chris Dunn was somewhat around the Bitcoin space, not so much then, a little more so now, but he's also not as public now as he was a couple of years ago. But he's another one.
He reinvented himself 1,000 times on YouTube.
Yeah, but he knows what he's doing, and that was about it. And there was like Bull Bear Analytics was like a newsletter that they also seem to know what they're doing. But that was it. There wasn't much at all. And I'm like, hey, you know what? This is so much easier to like make my name known in the crypto space with trading than in the traditional markets. And that slowly led me to speak at more conferences, doing more interviews like this. Started becoming a regular on the World Crypto Network until there was a big enough demand for me to start my own YouTube channel. So it was kind of organically grown. I'm just starting to do the same thing in Russian, and you'll see why. It's also one of my problems. So I speak fluent Russian, and that's an entire market I don't utilize.
Oh, man.
I don't write Russian. So right now I've committed to doing one interview in Russian a week with another Russian crypto podcast as a weekly guest, like I did with the World Crypto Network. I was a weekly guest. And then once I get enough of a following in Russian, I might be launching my own Russian YouTube channel one day in the future. I would obviously need a host that knows how to write Russian for the YouTube description and stuff, but that's something for next year. And one of my problems is that I get bored with things, right? So like, look at my professional career. Started out as a teacher, then worked on Wall Street, then a trader for a little bit, and now I'm a content creator. And then I'm gonna go back to being a trader. Even with my trading strategies, me and my friend came up with some really revolutionary, very proprietary option strategies. And he's mad at me that I'm not helping him trade them because the challenge was in creating strategies that work. Using them to make more money is no longer actually a challenge, right? So I get bored with things, even if they are profitable, because I don't want to live my life around money. And people ask me, well, if you were a good trader, you'd be trading and not talking. And I'm like, well, trading isn't going anywhere. Sure, like I'm perfectly happy with my 10-year-old car that I only use a little bit because I'm about to go away for 4 months. I'm perfectly happy with this apartment, which is actually bigger than this living room, but I'm perfectly happy with it, even though I bought it in 2008, before Bitcoin even existed. And I don't really have a reason to upgrade because I'm happy with it. And
Maybe you don't have a reason because you're underwater, Tone.
Well, I'm actually not underwater. New York did fairly okay. And this apartment is really, really cool. So I'm not underwater, but it certainly didn't make me much money. Like I can maybe sell it for 15% more than I bought it in '08. So I'll definitely break even on it, but it's good. I don't have to move. Prior to me buying this apartment, I've moved every year for 8 years.
Oh,
I
wow.
did not have a stable place to live, and it really sucks.
You know, a lot of what you're saying, Tone, really resonates with me, and the reason is because one of the things that I talk about a lot with our community here is that we need to continue to reinvent. We need to continue to experiment. We need to continue to push the boundaries. And one thing that and this is a question I'm going to ask you in a second, but I'm going to answer it myself, is that one of the things that I'm extremely excited about is the fact that cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, blockchain, I mean, this stuff is not going away. Some have accused you of being a Bitcoin maximalist. And I think you take those stripes, very well. But, it's not going anywhere. Now is the time to build. Now is the time to create. Now is the time to continue to expand your reach, expand your influence, as you have done organically through, if I may say, probably sheer force of brute will. And so I want to ask you this question as we transition into this. Obviously, you've done a lot of trading. You're a conference circuit speaker. You help consult and train other people on this. What is the most exciting thing for you right now, as we stand today in 2018? What's the most exciting thing for you as you look out to the horizon of cryptocurrency and obviously being a Bitcoin maximalist?
That's a really good question. Everything that I want from Bitcoin is actually happening right now, right?
He's getting his way, guys.
Like I am. Like a lot of the stupid are leaving for altcoins. I'm very happy that the altcoins are falling in price a lot faster than Bitcoin. I'm happy with the way Lightning is shaping out. I need to get some Lightning people on so I can learn more. Lightning is almost with us. Fungibility features are almost with us. Privacy features are almost with us. I think Bitcoin is going great. I think Bitcoin is doing a little too good under the radar. Like it worries me when things are doing very, very well. You start to get nervous. I am looking forward to, like Bcash completely dying and Ethereum completely dying. Like I'm waiting for that. Like at least BitConnect is now finally out of my hair. Now I'm waiting for Ethereum to go the same route as BitConnect. So I'm still waiting for, a lot of these altcoins to finally die. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Let me. I have to interject. There's so much juicy bits in here, guys. Where do I start? So let me start a little bit with a little bit of context from my worldview. So when I got into cryptocurrency, when I got into Bitcoin was all that I knew. I didn't know there was such a thing. Now, I got it around 2011, but I started getting serious right around the same time as you did in 2014. I kind of ignored it for 3 years or so. And one of my naivete, call it my naivete, is one of the things that I was so naive about as I learned about Bitcoin is that I thought everything was going to be Bitcoin. I thought there was going to be a Bitcoin Alpha, Bitcoin Beta, Bitcoin Charlie, a Bitcoin Delta, a Bitcoin Diamond, a Bitcoin, Yamama, whatever. That's what I thought altcoins were going to be. I thought it was just going to be a Bitcoin, and then there's going to be a Bitcoin permutation that maybe serves the privacy sector. There might be another permutation of Bitcoin that serves the security or risk sector. There might be another Bitcoin that has second layer. There might be a Bitcoin that's all about transaction speed. I mean, that's all I thought about. And so this altcoin revolution, this altcoin explosion, obviously, I've heard you talk about this on stream before, is that you're not obviously a big fan of altcoins. So talk to us about what is it about altcoins that make them unsavory to you? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I break altcoins down into 3 types. There are traditional Bitcoin clones that were honest science experiments. These are your Litecoins and your Moneros, right? They didn't have a pre-mine. They're still proof of work to this day. And you can make, or their creators kind of made the argument that it's a science experiment. I can buy that argument. So they're the least scammy of the altcoins. The next batch
as long as it's a true fork of Bitcoin, it's not a scam coin.
Correct. It's not necessarily a scam coin. Now, the next batch are those that were also proof of work, but they had some some questionable features whose sole only purpose is to make the creator rich from the start. So this is your Dash with its pre-mine, or your Zcash with its 20% skimming of the miner rewards, right?
I love it. I love it.
So these are your proof. Now Dash is actually a little worse because Dash is also proof of stake, right? So that, but the other batch is, yes, it's a fair proof of work coin, but we're gonna skim off the top. Steemit is in this boat, right? They're proof of work for 30 days before no one's heard of it. Then 3 months later, they inform people of Steemit, and it's now proof of stake, and only like a dozen people got to mine it, and now they're perpetually earning, right? So that's the second boat. These are your sneaky altcoins where the creators get very rich, and then their excuse is, well, we need the money in order to pay for development, in order to promote it, all this other nonsense, right? And the third type of altcoin, which is your ICO or your proof of stake or anything that is blatantly pre-mined. And Ethereum falls into this boat, and every single ICO falls into this boat. So this is the stuff, we're going to just create it, we're going to sell it to you, and from there, it doesn't matter, right? Like Ethereum is proof of work, others are proof of stake, others are proof of whatever. Some of them, like Ripple, there's no mining at all, right? It doesn't matter. Like if you just created it, then it's unlicensed, unregistered security, and you probably should have got arrested when you did it, but it's too late now, I guess, for some of them. And then
the SEC just ruled Ethereum as being a non-security. Thoughts on that?
They didn't officially rule it that way, and my thoughts on that is, they got some very bad advice. Because, lobbyists do also get paid, and those lobbyists do get paid with the money created by Ethereum. So my advice is the SEC made a mistake. But hey, if that's the law, that's the law. Then my view on it was this. If the regulations don't take down Ethereum, its tech is going to take down Ethereum. Like, it's not scalable. And if its tech is able to somehow band-aid itself long enough, then the economic incentive of Ethereum are going to take down Ethereum because they just don't make sense from an economic perspective.
Yeah, I think I'm in complete agreement with you. I've gotten a lot of flack for this over the past, but Ethereum to me never seemed like a good idea. As a Turing complete code base, what we have is an application layer that is 100%, and I'm sure you can agree with me, that we have an application layer now above Ethereum that completely avails the opportunity for a surface of attack. And so it will always be hacked. It will always be hackable. And one of the things that drove me and makes me, I guess you could call me a Bitcoin maximalist at this particular juncture point in time, but what has convinced me about Bitcoin, it is not Turing complete. It is complete in of itself. It is unhackable. Right. It is a protocol level, not an application.
Well, and the thing is, and after, from what I heard from actual programmers, after the whole DAO thing, Ethereum turned off the Turing completeness feature on Solidity so that the ICOs don't have the same problem as the DAO contracts did.
But key idea there, we can't miss this. This was a centrally controlled decision. This was not a democratized decision making process for the DAO, which I was a huge, in my ignorance, in my naivete before the DAO hack, and many of my subscribers know this story, but I mean, I was a huge proponent of Ethereum. I thought it was excellent. I thought there was opportunities for me to learn about these smart contract, this new idea. And then when the DAO happened, we saw a literal centralization of control. And for me, that just, I'm a big Ethereum Classic supporter because it has the same principles of Bitcoin: immutability, code is law, right? Decentralization. So, thoughts on Ethereum Classic?
I mean, it's the same as Ethereum, only without Vitalik, right? It still suffers from everything that Ethereum suffers. It has the same exact problems as Ethereum, only they can claim that they're the original legit chain, but no one uses them, so they're even more irrelevant than Ethereum, right? Like it's not about is Ethereum you can also make the argument that Ethereum Classic is more centralized than Ethereum because there's less people involved in programming the underlying layer of Ethereum Classic, right? So it kind of goes back and forth than Ethereum is today.
So
But
let me interject here because I want to give our audience both sides of the equation a little bit here. You're obviously a Bitcoin. I'm writing notes down, guys. You're obviously a Bitcoin maximalist. You've categorized the altcoin nation. The altcoin nation in three particular categories. Ones that fork off of Bitcoin and still hold the same premise, still hold the same philosophy as Bitcoin. You have forked altcoins that are centrally controlled, they're manipulated, and there's pre-mines, and it makes the people rich. And then there's obviously the proof of stake, the ICOs out there.
the ICOs, yeah.
But let's flip the script a little bit, Tone. Let's speak on the other side of this equation. Talk to me. Is there a place for altcoins? Is there value in the altcoin growth? Is there value that's coming out of this? Talk to us about your thoughts on that.
I don't think so. Like nothing that any of these altcoins are actually doing is even being considered of being merged into Bitcoin. All the innovation still happens on Bitcoin. As far as having an application token, that never makes sense, right? I mean, if application tokens made sense, then why aren't we paying for Amazon product with something as volatile as Amazon stock? Like, it doesn't make sense. You want to pay for your product with the most stable currency possible. And why would you pay for a smart contract in something like Ethereum gas that fluctuates in value? I mean, you can take Ethereum's code, you can centralize it, you can remove the damn token and charge people, 3 US cents per byte. And you can collect this fee in anything, right? You can connect your credit card to it. You can pay for it in Bitcoin. And this is where Bitcoin solved the payment decentralization problem. The problem that all of these utility tokens are going to have is, why am I paying for something in a volatile currency that I'm forced to buy to use your application? Like,
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. With any type of emergent currency or transactable entity, there's going to be initially volatility. We even saw this with the rise of gold in the beginning of the gold market. There was huge volatility with it. Now, obviously, gold has been around for a long time, and the volatility has stabilized off. And so what we have is something that is, well, we can all mentally assent to the fact that it's manipulated, but it's far more stable now than it was when it first emerged. And wouldn't you say that at some level that the altcoin market, if it's going to continue to expand, if we look at the current trajectory of the altcoin market, more money is getting pumped into it? I think we can both agree into that.
Not really, because like people want to transact in the crappiest currencies when they can, and they want to save in a better currency. But if you're saving in a better currency and you're capable of using that currency as well, that's what's going to happen. Like, no one wants to save in Venezuelan bolivars. Nobody wants to save in Indian rupees. You want to use that stuff as quick as you can, or convert it to something like gold or US dollars, or hopefully Bitcoin. And so all of these currencies, like Bcash, is proud of the fact that you're using it. And I'm like, yeah, so why would anyone ever hold it? Like, you want to get rid of your Bcash as soon as possible as a transactional currency. And at the end of the day, I don't know if you read the book, The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous. It's an amazing. You have. And there's something in that book that like made me really regret. Like I'm very thankful to Max Kaiser for getting me into Bitcoin. I'm also not so thankful to Max Kaiser for getting me into silver. Now, I don't regret my gold purchases, but after reading Saifedean's book, Saifedean basically explained how, yes, silver was a much more popular currency throughout the centuries because gold was just too expensive. And even a gram of gold is hard to divide. So silver was used as a micropayment on gold until we had paper currencies backed by gold. With paper currencies backed by gold, you can now subdivide a gram of gold and use it in micropayments. And that's why silver has absolutely no monetary element whatsoever, because with the modern technology, gold is subdivided. Now, granted, the governments went off the gold standard, but technology allowed you to use gold as a micropayment. Once Bitcoin technology allows you to use Bitcoin as a micropayment, There's absolutely no need for any of these less safe, less secure altcoins. And a more recent, I forgot who said this first, but it like dawned on me the other day. Like every person wants to create their own altcoin. Everybody wants to print their own money. And you can take it back to the idea of language, right? Like imagine if every person had their own language, trying to convince others to use their language. Even right now, like I'm so happy that I speak English and Russian. That allows me to travel like a third of the world, and or more than that, half the world, and have zero communication barrier. If I add Spanish to that, I'll probably cover 90% of the world with no language barrier. Add Chinese and maybe Arabic, and I'm done. I can pretty much go anywhere in the world, other than like 99.5% of the world, and have zero communication problems. Like the same thing with money. Like having multiple currencies is just not efficient.
And I think what's really interesting, Tony, is I'm really appreciating this context from you, because it's filling in a lot of the gaps that I've created, the assumptions around who you are that I've created for many, many years of following you and learning a couple things on TA to boot. But what is really interesting to me, if I may summarize at some level, is your worldview really is, Bitcoin maximalism. You see, and we could probably talk. I'll tell you this: we probably need to have another conversation. But I'm assuming that you're looking at second layer Lightning for Bitcoin being those micropayment mechanisms that's going to make Bitcoin not only as a store of value, but a truly liquid and transactable coin. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think once Lightning is out of beta, maybe it'll take another year, maybe it'll take 2 years, maybe it'll take 3 years. The thing is, it doesn't matter. What's important is that Bitcoin stays decentralized, and the number of nodes 3 years from now is only higher than it is today. That's the only thing that matters. Everything else is kind of secondary, and we will get that micropayment solution that's going to make things a lot easier for using Bitcoin as a day-to-day currency.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that I think is important to at least disclose at this particular juncture point in time is that now you guys have heard kind of how Tone sees the world. And I think it's important that we have individuals like Tone Vays who are really pushing, moving the needle, really being the tip of the spear for Bitcoin being, as I am as well. I love Bitcoin. It's the best thing out there. But I will disagree with you, Tone Vays. I think there is immense, immeasurable value to the altcoin market from not a financial side. For me, the altcoin market is about the tech. And what I'm really excited about with the altcoin market is what is emerging right now is we are seeing projects. Yeah, are they a lot of them dumb? Yeah, do 99.9% of them just need an access database instead of a blockchain? All that, granted. But what I love about the altcoin market is allowing people to experiment with the tech. And I think we can both agree that we don't know the future here. I'm assuming that there's going to be something, maybe multiple really pivotal moments in the near future for the altcoin market that's going to change the way that we see economics in Bitcoin. Do I know what that is? I have no idea. But for me as an operator building a cryptocurrency exchange, for me, I'm all about the altcoin market right now. So we can agree to disagree on that. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's fair. And we can talk more about that next time, in that I'm all for that. My problem comes in when, the general public is solicited for the money in order for them to do this experimentation.
I will agree with you there. That's why we're homebrewing.
This is where I respect all the projects that don't ICO. Like even things like Hyperledger and R3 are okay. Like I can disagree. I can say they're not gonna work, but but they're not like scams. They're just not because they didn't solicit money from unqualified investors. So Absolutely. It's that solicitation of money from unqualified investors, something that like we've all lived our whole life. We've all had people that participated in multi-level marketing and everybody else that comes to their door trying to solicit money from them. And these ICOs are taking it to a whole other level. And that bothers me as a person.
I can completely respect that 100%. And that's one of the things, if I may say, that's what we're doing. We're bootstrapping our project, our cryptocurrency exchange, yen.io. And we don't want to solicit money. We think, and this is just a philosophical stance for us, but we believe ICOs are too easy. It's too easy to scam people. It's too easy to get money for a shitty idea. And so we want to do the hard work. We want to build the community first, and we want to do it the traditional route, which is the harder route. And so we are closing out on our time, Tone. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I think we need to make this a thing maybe. I'd love to get more perspective on your worldviews around altcoins, around Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and where are we going to be heading in 2019? But we're going to have to save that for another time. Tone, this is your opportunity. Tell us, hey, where can we find you? Where can we get connected? Where can we make sure that we see more of your beautiful face?
Yeah, that's nice. No, the beautiful face is on my morning show. Her name is Leah Wald. And she's the co-host of our morning news brief with Jimmy Song, Giacomo Zucco, and a new addition, Rodolfo Nowak of Open Dime and Cold Card. Yeah, most of my content is now on YouTube. Writing just takes too long, so I find it much easier to just live stream all my content, live stream videos. I'm fairly active on Twitter as Tone Vays, and I have a huge travel schedule coming up, everywhere. I'm going to be in Vegas and DC later this month. After that, I'll be traveling through like 5 countries in Europe in September, Asia in October, Australia in November, Chile, and maybe somewhere else in Latin America in December. So I'll be away for a while. Keep an eye on conferences in those areas, meetups in those areas, and that's where you'll find me in person.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tone Vays. Guys, make sure you check them out. Make sure you subscribe. Spend some time. Trust me, you'll learn something.
Yes, and don't forget to check out the audio podcast as well for those that aren't able to always watch it on YouTube.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Thanks.